thank you all for coming out. It takes a lot to persevere when the weather gives you an inclination to excuse yourself from doing what you've scheduled. So it's wonderful to be here as well. I think you heard some things about me. I tend to not listen when people are, so that way if I hear something I shouldn't hear, I don't get offended. But I am an intervention specialist at Power Center Academy High School. I did come to Memphis about 3 years ago for the purpose of charter schools because I'm from Alabama and we do not have charter schools in Alabama. It's not an option. But based on some of the components that were offered to advance the educational process, I was intrigued to come and check it out, and as a result, here we are. I did start off with KIPP when I first came, which is how I became a part of Literacy South and had the opportunity through that entity to meet some wonderful people. So last spring, I developed a Management Matters continuum for struggling teachers. I've done so much teaching and behavior stuff and helped so many people. It just really would bother me when great teachers who understood the curriculum would come in all gung-ho to teach and ready to show all the, and within a year or two, they're gone. Part of the problem would be management. Just how do you manage these difficult children, How does that really tie into what we're doing today? You're like, well, okay, struggling teachers, management. If you look at the statistics, 41% of students who can't read efficiently are students who are between kindergarten and second grade, right? The decline in their ability started between kindergarten and first grade and second grade. Right? It started to show up between third and fourth grade, primarily fourth grade, because that's when assessments began to count and the data starts to reflect. So, right? Somewhere down the line, in kindergarten, first and second grade, a majority of these students miss a very important component to learning to read: phonics, phoneme awareness. How does that happen? Think about it. Little Johnny is overly active, we'll be polite. Little Johnny's overly active. He's constantly disruptive, and he gives a lot of pushback and poor attitude to the teacher while the teacher's trying to teach, right? What ultimately happens to little Johnny? Typically isolated. Teacher doesn't tend to spend as much time with little Johnny. And he misses crucial components to learning. Phonics is only taught kindergarten through second grade. If you don't get it during that period of time, nobody goes back to revisit it. It's gone. So what happens is, little Johnny didn't get his phoneme awareness, right? So when it's time to learn to pronounce words and use them in context, doesn't get that part. But he's learned some social skills, how to recognize certain words because of the repetition of seeing them. He's learned some strategies, listening to other people read, practicing it, memorizing information. But that important component of being able to pronounce and enunciate words, it's gone. When we start reading intervention, guess what we do? We give them passages. They still can't pronounce the words, which means they, and then we read it to them. Oh, he gets to it if I read it. So we know there's nothing wrong with the comprehension, but the student can't speak it. They can't announce it. They can't articulate it. What happened? Well, the teacher at the time probably was awesome. Obviously, the rest of the kids did okay, right? Did not understand how to manage. Guess what happens? Little Johnny falls between the cracks because of management. And how do I know? Because I spent my whole career teaching difficult students. So it became my goal to empower teachers with tools. How do you teach a difficult student? Well, that ties in definitely if you're doing tutoring or intervention. Because if you're asked to come and help somebody, they need what? Help. They need assistance. And there, somewhere down the line, some important components have been missed. So management matters. Management matters. It starts day one. If the teacher does not have management skills at the primary stage, students fall through the cracks. It's not the teacher's fault. It's not the student's fault. Because we don't equip teachers with all they need to understand that you don't have to be a disciplinarian to understand about management. Now, that's important for you to know, so it helps you define your purpose as it relates to management. Because sometimes it gets caught in between, like, how does that tie together? It's very important. All right? So, now you have an activity in front of you called, it's your do now. You always have to have a do now. The directions are on there. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do your do now, and we're going to discuss that do now. What it means, how it relates to education. Okay, since I don't want you to feel pressured, I just wanted you to think for a moment. I'll go ahead and we'll start to discuss it. All right, here we are. I don't know how you identify it, but we're going to go over the hierarchies. Okay, remember the thing that's on the bottom is the thing we need the most abundance of, which is supposedly the most important component. Beliefs. What are our beliefs about learning? What are our beliefs about effective learning? None of that other stuff matters if we're not aligning our beliefs. Do we believe that all children can learn? Do we believe that management matters? Do we believe that difficult students can learn? Do we believe that phonics is important? Do we believe that we need to be able to read in order to achieve? Beliefs. Because if we believe all these things, then we should not allow a student who's difficult to sit in a classroom and not obtain the proper education because he's been perceived difficult. We shouldn't allow a teacher to struggle with the fact that she has to educate this student because she hasn't or he hasn't been given the tools to be successful. All right, management. I don't know if you put management next, but you better. Because you can't teach a bunch of kids who aren't listening. I know people do it every day. You state that. You can't educate a bunch of kids or adults who are not listening. You can teach all day. Some of us do it all the time. You know, we just teach our little hearts out. And nobody gets it. I mean, we've been in those classes, right? I mean, we had some professors, they could teach up something, and you leave out there going, huh? Wow. I don't know, girl, I didn't get it either. I didn't know what what she said. I hope she gives a study guide, you know, because it's a difference between teaching and educating. So management, you have to know, but it's really important that we understand there's a difference between management and discipline. A lot of people don't get that. You do not have to be a disciplinarian to have good management. And I think the thing that most people get afraid of is, well, I can't discipline the kids. You shouldn't have to. And we're going to talk about what management is like. The next thing, innate ability. Innate ability, the child's ability, but not just that, motivation, okay? We have to learn to motivate students based on work ethic, not innate ability, okay? There's so many, we know some people have told us it's really bad for us. Oh, I've heard that all my life. Yeah. That's the worst thing to tell a child, that he or she is smart. You know what that does? It gives you the right to sit back and not work hard. It empowers you to feel like you know more than other people when you really don't. You know, and the best way to understand motivation is, I always explain it to my students, because you'll be surprised. You have an assessment in that toolkit. If you use it on your students and get them to kind of measure what they feel about their abilities. Most of us, or most of the students, they really downrate, you know, I'm not smart because I don't do good in school, and I can't do it. I've always been told I'm dumb. Well, and so when I was teaching language arts, I've taught a variety of things. I like to capitalize on all my potentials. I taught language arts, which was my best subject. I loved it. You know, and I give a diagnostic, and I'll give the grades back, and the kids go, oh, I knew I was going to get a 20. I knew I was going to get a 40. And so I'm saying, oh yeah, he always gets an 80. He's smart. He always gets an A. He's smart. She gets. So I said, well, you know, we have TCAP coming up. So how many of you think I'm going to be there? This group that didn't perform well, none of them raised their hand. So you don't think you can do it? No. I mean, I never, you know. So, and the thing you have to explain to scholars, students, and anybody that you're working with that's behind the 8 ball, so to speak. Okay, I always use something, and then please excuse my example, because I try to correlate it to something that's meaningful to the students, okay? But it's the only one I've used. I'm corny, so I use the same thing over and over again. So, I was like, okay, you know, tell me somewhere you want to visit. They pulled out of the hat Six Flags, right? So I had to think, okay, I'm in Tennessee. We all going to Six Flags. So Six Flags was equivalent to the TCAP, okay? All right, so I say, so we're in Tennessee. Let's talk about some places that's in between here and Atlanta. And they were like, okay, well, we're in Memphis. I said, okay, let's put Memphis here, all right? I say, so, you know, he's like, well, if we go to Longway. I said, yeah, let's go to Longway. He said, okay, well, we're going to have to go through Alabama. I was like, okay, Alabama. He said, yeah, we're going to hit Birmingham. And then they said, we'll hit Oxford. And he gave me another place that was right before you got to Atlanta, right? I said, okay. It's the closest to Memphis. I said, Oxford is in the middle. And he said it was a small town, and I apologize for not remembering. But I'm going to give it a name. Hightower. And then you have Atlanta, right? Which is Six Flags. I said, well, this is the thing. Six Flags is the TCAP. That's the thing everybody can master, right? We can get there. I believe that. They're looking at me like, you believe we? I said, okay, so we have some people right now who are in Memphis. I mean, you know, if you're going to look at your ability, okay, that means you got to start from point A, from ground up. I said, but some of you are already in Birmingham. You know, you're a little bit ahead. I said, I actually have a group of folks in the middle who are in Oxford. I said, go figure. Because I'm giving the points. So if you had a 65, I say if you had a 60, raise your hand. Well, you're in Oxford. Oh, they're like, oh, okay. I said, well, if you had a 70,